As long as poker has existed, there have been players trying to cheat the game. And in today's age of internet poker, players have more opportunity to attempt different methods of cheating, especially collusion. In simple terms, collusion is when one or more players work together to gain an unfair advantage over the other players at the table. While it's easier to collude online than it is to do live, most cheaters are not skilled enough to get away with it. Before we know how online poker sites prevent collusion, we first must know the major types of collusion. Basically, there are 5 major types. Number 1. Soft playing. In cash games, soft playing could arguably be considered the least problematic form of collusion, but it's still cheating and still hurts the game. Soft playing is just what it sounds like. 2 or more players who do not play aggressively against each other for whatever reason. Soft players will rarely raise each other when in a heads-up pot and will very frequently just check it down through the river even if they have both premium hands. It is tough to soft play with any frequency without getting noticed, as it looks fishy when there's barely any betting in the hand and one player shows aces and the other one shows kings. While it's not that damaging in cash games, but in tournaments, soft playing is particularly offensive because it potentially delays the elimination of one of the cheaters, making it harder for the honest players to make the money. Number 2. Squeezing. This one is wrong no matter which way you slice it. 2 players will cheat by teaming up on an innocent player in an effort not to beat him with the best hand, but by forcing him to fold and surrender his chips. A typical collusion hand using the squeeze method goes like this. Colluder A raises pre-flop, victim 3 bets, colluder B 4 bets, colluder A 5 bets, victim folds, colluder B calls. At some point after the flop, one of the cheaters will eventually fold the hand, with the other one winning the pot, which includes the pre-flop victim's chips as well as the blinds or antes. The squeeze cheat is especially troubling when it's done on the bubble of a single table tournament. With big blinds very high relative to the chip stacks, every hand is important. Squeezing an opponent out of a hand after he raises just once can swing the tournament strongly in the cheater's favor. Number 3. Chip dumping. In cash games, chip dumping is generally a means for 2 players to transfer funds to each other and is relatively harmless to other players. But in tournaments, it is a mean to give one of the colluders the upper hand on the rest of the table. When chip dumping, one cheater will purposely lose a stack to his partner. While the first cheater is eliminated, the other one has now doubled up and is a significant advantage on the rest of the way. It's not easy to detect chip dumping as it might seem, because it is usually just a one-time thing in any given tournament. The dumper does it, gets eliminated, and that's it. Number 4. Ghosting. Ghosting occurs when a player receives advice from another player during cash games or tournaments. Ghosting isn't allowed in live poker as your actions and behavior are closely monitored by the casino. However, when you move to online poker, it becomes more difficult to prevent ghosting. Some people have their friends sit down with them throughout the poker session and receive advice from them. Others instead prefer to communicate with people helping them over Skype, TeamViewer, or telephone calls. The main benefit of ghosting is that the player gets a second opinion before taking or making any moves, and this may reduce the chances of a set player going on tilt. It's more common to see people ghosting towards the end of an online poker tournament. The game becomes harder at this stage, and getting help from a pro could help the player win the pot. The harm done to other poker players may be relatively limited in ghosting, but it still gives the player an unfair advantage. And number 5, multi-accounting. Here, a player will open several accounts with the same poker site and play at the same table using multiple accounts. This way, he has knowledge of most of the cards in the hand, and the outcome is the same as multiple players collaborating to rig the game. To check out more in-depth videos on poker scams and cheating, check the links in the description. So now we come to the meat of the video. How do online poker sites prevent collusion? Today, the poker industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and its number 1 priority is security and integrity. In the beginning, online poker rooms and software developers employed poker experts to understand collusion and the best way to tackle the potential problem. Nowadays, Alongside that, the sites have developed different types of software to stay ahead of players trying to collude or use other malicious means to win games. These softwares are designed to detect collusion and any other fraudulent practices players may use. It must be mentioned that it's very difficult to catch colluding players in the act as they communicate through media like telephone, Skype, text messages, and so on. But the good thing is that their collaboration will certainly reflect in the game and will be noticeable in terms of dropped hands and by the manner by which they win or lose. As poker sites can control what happens, what players do outside the table, they make sure to take absolute control of the things happening in their realm. This is why many poker sites make use of state-of-the-art software to detect various methods of collusion. Then, the software alerts fraud experts employed by the poker site of any suspicious play. For example, a player could be drawing dead, however, the player continues to call or even raise. But then you may ask, how do you tell the difference between bluffing and collusion? Only experienced staff with a vast understanding of the game can make this call. There are a number of factors that must be taken into consideration, but a majority of decision will be based on betting patterns. Basically, the computer flags the suspect and the investigation is done manually by the professional staff of the poker room. The experts are able to review every aspect of the game. They will know the cards each player was dealt, their entire action on the table, and the hands they had when they went all in or folded. Also, a number of patterns are looked into, like a player with a good hand folding early and two players playing at the same table consistently. The site will also check if there is a history of one or two players winning big on a regular basis. Random checks are also carried out and log files reviewed to see if there is any evidence of collusion. It's also possible for online poker rooms to detect players multi-accounting. A player using two separate computers, two separate internet connections, and even two separate identities can be detected, especially when he or she makes mistakes. It may be when the player forgets to take a turn for the accounts he is using. However, poker sites try to prevent players from opening multiple accounts by requesting an ID when a withdrawal is to be made. Poker sites' logging system is another great collusion detection tool. Online poker rooms maintain a record of all the players that competed at a table to win a hand. Should two or more players be suspected of collusion, all the poker site has to do is to have one of the staff to review the logs and check the time when the players played together and the outcome of the games. The last method of collusion detection by poker sites is by complaints from honest players. Online poker rooms encourage players to report any suspicious activity. There is no need for evidence or proof, and the poker sites will look into the matter by reviewing their logs. A lot of false accusations will be made, of course, but collusion isn't in your best interest or that of the poker room, and it's better to look into a false claim that falls victim to the schemes of these cheaters who have no respect for the fairness of the game. This video is powered by Bluff the Spot, the best place to learn how to win at poker from actual high-stake coaches like MMA Sherdog. Check the link in the description.